Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we discuss my thoughts on Season 2, Episode 13 of the Orville entitled Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I think it's one of the better of the second season of the Orville thus far, even though there were aspects of it that, it was kind of been there, done that. We've seen this plotting done before, especially if you're familiar with Star Trek The Next Generation. I was immediately brought to mind the episode where Commander William Riker is, forced to encounter and deal with a sort of younger doppelganger version of himself, or at least younger in mind. I believe they were still the same age. But we're introduced to Thomas Riker for all intents and purposes after a transporter accident on a settlement that, he had once been involved with for all those years since his escape and rescue. Little did he know there was a whole nother version of himself living and thriving and existing, and the episode puts the focus on Thomas Riker's wanting to rekindle his relationship with Counselor Deanna Troi and such like that, and the conflict that's born there. So I mean, this episode is cut from very similar cloth. It's basically the same story, with subtle differences, and I just really enjoyed it. I really liked the sort of younger Kelly. For all of her being a little bit less than stuffed shirt as Kelly proper is, I thought it was a nice contrast that Adrienne Palicki really well performed. The conflict between her younger self, who still has these aspirations and these goals, and she doesn't necessarily know what path to follow. She hasn't set her bearings yet. The future's still very much open for her. And then when confronted with her elder self, who has made these decisions, and life had played out not quite exactly to her planning and hopes, and desires, I just thought that back and forth was really captivating, and I was really impressed. Having seen stories wherein actors often play dual roles and things like that, whether they're playing siblings or cousins, as was the case with the Patty Duke show, and there's often made use this process in camera of like split screen. They'll record one half of the screen and black out the other half, and then the actor will go get sort of made up differently, and they'll come back and they'll record their secondary role, and then it's edited together. And usually back in the day, the 50s and 60s, you could see the little split screen even in films at times. It was very perceptible, and in this episode, from beginning to end, every single moment that the two Kellys were on screen together, it was seamless. They really got it down as far as having it be seamless, and even like the direction of the eyes whenever one Kelly's looking at the other. I mean, there's no disparity there. You got the sense that they were really two flesh and blood human beings existing in the same space, even to the point where elder Kelly puts her hand on the arm of younger Kelly, in a briefing room situation. And I was impressed. I was like, wow, I don't doubt this at all for some reason. Like, my brain is telling me it's Adrienne Palicki playing both characters, and they can't simultaneously exist. But there it was happening. It was unfolding on the screen, and it looked utterly seamless, and it just really drew me into it. Of course, I was, as I was watching this, thinking, it's kind of convenient. You have the time crystals in Star Trek Discovery Season 2, which kind of sound fantastical and strange and odd and things like that, even though there is apparently a basis in real science for that kind of thing. Whereas contrasted here, we have a device that, I mean, it looked kind of like a big glowing crystal, if I'm honest. And they kind of explain that, yes, scientific theory is involved and machination is involved, but then they kind of keep it at that, kind of more playing into Star Treks of old. They give you only so much, and then they want you to let your imagination run with the concept. So, I mean, there was an aspect to this device that brought all this about, the gravitational shear in space and whatever like that instigated it, and what was on Kelly's mind per the conversation in the early portion of the episode. And just seeing these two Kellys come together, it was just really intriguing. And of course, the younger Kelly's only having just met Ed from her perspective, and so being very much much as was the case in the TNG episode with Thomas and William Riker, both coming head to head, and Thomas Riker's wanting to rekindle that relationship with Deanna Troi. We have her kind of wanting to explore that with Ed, and I was actually really impressed with Ed's own sort of reluctance to get into the intimacy of that because of the lives they've led. And I mean, he was feeling good about spending his time with her. There was so much of that could be so tempting to him. It's everything he wants. He wants to rekindle his relationship with Kelly, and she became more career focused, more of a stuffed shirt, if you will, a very respectable, commanding, strong woman. But it was just really nice to see the letting her hair down version, who she once was, contrasted to who she has now become. And speaking of letting the hair down, at first, it really stood out to me with the younger Kelly that's a wig. Hair extensions, no, it's a proper wig and everything like that. But whereas it was very glaring in the early portions when we first are introduced to the younger Kelly, because of how compelling the characterization was and the performances, which really drew me in. At one point, I completely and utterly forgot. I didn't care anymore. It was younger Kelly. Okay, this is younger Kelly, and here's elder Kelly, and it just I really loved it. They didn't pad it out at all. They told a straight, fleshed out story, and by the end of it, you're kind of left with this gobsmacking potential cliffhanger, where when Kelly is finally returned, they're supposed to have done a memory wipe, and it's kind of inexplicable. You don't exactly know why, but she has reservations when she comes to in her apartment, back in the past now, and when she receives the call from Ed of the past, who might as well be a vampire. He looks no different. Seth MacFarlane didn't do any de-aging makeup for all intents and purposes. Rather than, as we found out in the earliest portion of the episode, per the modern Kelly and Ed's conversation, that she had been tempted to turn him down when he called her the next morning after their first date, but she decided to go along with him because of the fun she had with him. Very differently, very contrastingly, very gobsmackingly, in my personal opinion, Kelly, the younger Kelly, bold-facedly denies him a second date. That says to me, as a fan of time travel tropes and stories and things, is the finale of this season, which is the next episode 14, is it going to be dealing solely with the repercussions of the timeline and events in the timeline and where everyone is positioned, going completely and totally out of whack? The preview for the finale episode mostly showed us clips of everything we've already seen before in the season, although there was one shot of like the Orville exploding, and I don't know if that was taken out of an episode where like the Kalon 2-parter where some of the Union ships were being destroyed, or if that was supposed to be the Orville exploding, that kind of thing. And so like I don't know what to expect for the finale episode. But the ending of this, I mean, how can things not now go awry? And are we going to watch next week's episode and nobody is where they're supposed to be for all intents and purposes because time is now changed, has been altered? Ed being like a pontoon pilot in Venice, Italy, or Kelly being a register jockey at Mickey D's. Will Alara Katan be back for a few minutes? Who knows? Who knows what they could pull out of their hats if in fact time has been manipulated, and it's just going to be a grand question what effect this is going to have on the finale episode now. I'm really, really curious, if any at all. And I will entertain any and all speculations you guys might have in the comments below to that effect, because I can't be the only one who was like, oh, oh crap, things are going to be different now, aren't they? with that final scene. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 13 of season 2 of the Orville, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. If you've seen it as well, yes, I know it's, you know, been there, done that as far as a plot goes, but I thought it was well performed, very compellingly performed, and it drew me in, even though I've seen this done, you know, a couple of times before in my history as a sci-fi fantasy fan. And so love it or hate it, anything goes, as long as you are respectful of others' opinions and respectable in sharing your own. And if you'd like to consider supporting my channel, please have a look at my PayPal support link posted both in the description as well as the comments below. Anything you saw fit to send my way would be 2 thumbs up for me and go far and away to securing my longevity on YouTube for the foreseeable future, and would be very much appreciated. So until the next one, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.